All right, welcome back to another Tul World podcast. I'm your host, David Jew, and I'm here with Master Jew.
How's it going there, Mr. Jew?
It's going pretty good.
All right.
So, today we're going to be talking about inner forearm block and outer forearm block.
Really fundamental.
Very fundamental. And let's just take a look at let's start with the mid-side blocks.
Mid-side, yeah, sure.
Okay, just to make it all the same. What's the difference between them? And yeah, because this came up because like a kid, one of our students was like,
why do I do one?
Yeah, why would I do one over the other?
Yeah, that's also in some ways kind of like, is it the same technique if I do a right four-fist punch versus a left four-fist punch?
Or a turning kick with the ball of the foot, or a turning kick with the top of the foot?
Yeah, I mean, they are same, but they are different.
Yes.
Right? And if you look at, let's talk about the one you talked about, the mid-side block with the inner forearm versus the outer forearm. Mm-hmm. So if you just put the arm up, you have inner forearm, and then you rotate that hand, and you have the outer forearm. So I'm blocking with the outer forearm versus I block with the inner forearm. Mm-hmm. You could say, well, I hurt my outer forearm, so I decided I had to block with my inner forearm. Maybe, but probably not. You got to look at the block itself. So what you have is an ending. Outer forearm, inner forearm. That's what you have. Mm-hmm. But just like a book, you have a beginning, you have a middle, and then you have the end, right? And so I always look at the techniques. Are they performed differently from the beginning to the end, right? Yeah. And so, like for instance, inner forearm block, outer forearm block, the intermediate hand position. If I'm doing an outer forearm block, the intermediate hand position when they cross is on the inside.
Yes.
But the intermediate hand position for an inner forearm block is on the outside.
Right, they switch around.
They switch. Now, could have been the other way. I mean, I always wondered that when I was a lower rank. Why is it on the inside? No one really said. And why is it on the outside? No one says. And then we still have students that do the inner forearm block on the inside. Is that right or wrong? From a self-defense point of view, no, doesn't matter, right? I always keep saying that. Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
But if you start to look at why is it on the inside versus the outside? Because we're talking about something a little bit different, because we're talking about the way it moves from the beginning to the middle to the end, right? And so if you think about why are the intermediate hand position on the inside versus the outside, right? If my right leg is back, and if I just stand naturally, then my right hand would be back. Of course, I could have my right leg back with my left arm forward, but no one stands like that normally. You could do it, but it's not normal, right?
Yeah.
And so if I was in, let's say, guarding position, and my right leg is back, so when I start moving, my hands don't actually they don't just stay still. My arm should be moving with my legs. And so if I'm going to do an outer forearm block, my right leg is back. So as I'm moving forward, my right hand starts to move, my left hand starts to move, and right hand will be on the inside.
Yes.
Right. And then I follow the technique. Now, if you could use that same logic with the inner forearm, if my right leg is back, as I move forward, then my right hand should be back, but I'm going to block with the inner forearm because I want to do it with the inner forearm. But I say, no, that's not really true, because the inner forearm block is performed on the outside. And so how do you get there? So when I start moving my legs forward, I actually have to my arms are moving in a different direction. When my left leg is back, right? That's when my arm starts to cross, or that's when I start my movement. So now that I move forward, so I went from the right L stance and I'm moving forward, I'm not really in any stance, I'm just moving forward. My arms are moving in an opposite direction, and at some point I'm going to start moving forward again, past my left foot. Now my left leg is back, my right arm is forward. So when my hands cross, my left hand is back, and my right arm is forward, and then I execute the inner forearm block. So the inner forearm block is on the outside, but it's when does the hand start to cross, and how does it move? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I follow.
And so, and I know it's kind of hard, if you're listening to this on a podcast, it's maybe a little bit harder to understand, but you could also check out our
video
of it.
Turn it down to like 50% speed.
50% speed.
You can think about a little bit more.
And so when you look at it from those terms, the two techniques look similar. The ending part looks very similar, but they are moving. They are not really similar. They're different. I always kind of think of the outer forearm block as more of a quick movement, like a chop. And the inner forearm block is more like a big swing. So I kind of wind it up really big, and then I swing the arm out. And so they actually they're actually kind of performed differently and causes different results, I think. I think with maybe the way you execute like an inner forearm block, because it's more like a big swing, like swinging a bat, might give you more of that power in that way.
Right. That idea is kind of along the same lines of like back fist strike, which is the same hand position as the inner forearm block. Right, and kind of has that kind of swinging action to it too.
Right, so it's the way you start the technique and then how it finishes.
Right.
That's kind of what it is.
So we do these techniques with like the crossing, and do you actually think that would work out on the street?
Well, when we're talking about on the street, whatever technique works.
Right. Oh, okay. I guess.
But because we're studying this idea of how the body mechanics move, right? And we're talking about how should it move, and how can we generate the most power, then I think the things that we're talking about does have some validity into our actual self-defense, right? Yeah. So if I can utilize the principles of what we're studying and how we can generate the most power, yeah, maybe we don't actually fight like that, but we understand and we keep practicing that. And then when you are in situations where you have to use a certain technique, that you've practiced the way you could create more power. It may not be ideal, but if you never practice the ideal situation, how could it ever be as good? Yeah, is what I'm saying, right? And so if we understand that more, then we can hopefully be better at it, right, in that situation. Yeah, so I think another part of the question would be, why do the hands cross? Because the hands don't always have to cross. What you have is an action-reaction. Right? And so the reason why the hands cross, because that's one of the problems I see with a lot of students. They bring their hands up, they cross, but they stop about their wrist level, back fist or something, and then they execute the technique. Well, that's not necessarily correct. What you're trying to do, if you just isolate each of the arm movement, if I'm talking about the blocks itself, like outer forearm block, what I need to do is wind it up as far as I can without jeopardizing or exposing myself too much. I want to wind it up as much as possible, which may be way over by your left ear, and then you execute the technique. Now, the reaction hand has to be equal distance. And so that means that if I was blocking with my right hand, my left hand has to be reaching kind of far forward. And so when they cross, I wouldn't stop here because that's not my maximum wind up. I actually have to wind it up more. And I think that really the maximum wind up is maybe where the elbow's crossing, is at intersecting, and then execute the technique. So it's not really back fist to back fist or wrist. That's kind of like the intermediate position of the cross. Right? Yeah. Because it continues further than that.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, well, let us know your thoughts on inner forearm block, outer forearm block, particularly with the mid-side blocks. But as always, don't forget to be safe.
Keep training.
And have a great week.
Taekwon.